Gabagool, over here.
In the largest nutrition study of all time, scientists looked at what foods would add time to your life when consumed, and what foods would remove time from your life when consumed. The food that added the most time to your life was this. And the food that removed the most time from your life,
Over here.
cured meats, aka a gabagool. Now isn't that just so fitting? A show filled with characters with nothing but death wishes, always celebrating the gabagool. And today, we're gonna be doing that myself. Now, hang on, before you get all excited and all that stuff about it, let me just say, in terms of the cured meat world, gabagool is A rank, maybe B rank. It's not an S tier meat. The S tier meat is prosciutto. The buttery texture, when you bite into it, the entire thing doesn't come out, and you're not eating 5 slices of prosciutto with one bite, ruining the Italian sandwich, let me tell you right now. But hey, that's okay, because today we're going to be looking at a lot of different kinds of the gabagool, aka capicola salami. They've got the way of making it look so delicious, man. The guy just goes in there with his whole hand, like an animal, and just eats it without anything. I've never seen anything like it. Now, because we are not animals,
Hold it.
because we're not psychopaths, we're going to be using a bit of bread. I got it all buttered up, real nice and lovely. There's something that happens to the human mind when you combine protein, salt, and fat all into one thing, starting with the cheapest kind of capicola. Now, this is the kind of stuff you would find in an Aldi or one of those shady grocery stores where, like, you always got to check the expiration dates of the meats and the cheeses and stuff. This is going to be one of those, and you'll note that the color of it actually looks pretty good. This thing is full of nitrites and nitrates, sort of a staple of any sort of Italian cured meat. It has some good looking gabagool. You can see the gradations right there. You can see the fat layers. It looks beautiful, but how does it actually taste? That's pretty good gabagool. Despite this being the cheapest gabagool, it shares all the hallmarks of a high-quality, delicious cured meat, and it's all about those fat striations. See, a good sign of Italian meat is when you bite into it, how much of that fat are you tasting? If your Italian meat doesn't look like this, you know, salami has the same thing, just peppered all over it, you've gotten crappy meat. The fat is flavor. You gotta have it. And this has a ton of it. When you pull it apart, you can actually see it coming off at the seams. It's really, really good. Hella salty, hella delicious, hella buttery. Tony would be proud.
The gabagool.
Now, you've seen the cheap stuff, but what if we tried something a bit more expensive? This right here is also gabagool, but this gabagool is a little bit different. Unlike the previous one, this doesn't have any nitrites in it whatsoever. That's kind of worrying to me, because first of all, this cost twice as much. It was like 10 bucks, right? But also, I think the nitrites and nitrates add the flavor of the gabagool. I think if you remove that, you're pretty much going to be in the same position as if you remove them from any sort of cured, salted deli meat. You're not going to end up with too much flavor, right? That's my theory. That is gabagool right here. It'll be looking much darker, boy. And interestingly enough, you can note the little notes of peppers that are all over this thing. So having this thing cure naturally removes that lightness element to it. That's interesting. Now, it looks unbelievably fatty, but it does not look fattier than our cheaper one right there. I mean, you look at them side by side, the fat, which is the flavor, doesn't really look too different. But let's see how it actually tastes. This one is way more tender than the other one is. And here's the funny thing about that. Look at the size of these puppies right here, right? This gabagool is bigger than this gabagool, but somehow this one is more tender than this one is. The fat striations are about even, but if you scale up for size, this one does technically have more fat in it. And as a result, it's a lot more tender. When you bite into it, it falls apart in your mouth, and this one actually melts. The previous gabagool, the cheap gabagool right here, this great value ass gabagool, this one didn't have that melting aspect to it. You had to chew. You didn't necessarily have to work for it so much, but this one melts completely in your mouth. It's got that same salty, unctuous flavor, but oh, the mouthfeel is so much more divine. Paradoxically, removing the nitrites and the nitrates from something that's known for having that sort of thing resulted in something that tasted way better and way more complex.
Let's get back to that gabagool.
And now we've got the mid-tier, and this stuff right here, unlike all the other stuff right there where it was pre-packaged and it's been sitting around for God knows how long, this right here is the deli gabagool. And the deli gabagool, I saw the guy chop up right then and there, man. I saw him do it. It was a brutal thing. It was savage. I couldn't believe what I was seeing.
fresh meat.
Fresh cut from the gabagool tree. Hella stringy, man. This thing looks like it would be the chewiest thing on the planet, like bubblegum in meat form, if you can imagine such a horrifying thing. But the pepper is where it really shines. There was about $6 for this, as opposed to the cheapness of the $4 and below the $10 thing. So, you know, it's comfortably in the middle tier. Can you see the fat? Do you see it? Well, oh my god, it's got more fat than any of the other gabagools we have. Maybe because I'm stacking on top of it like that, so you're gonna get fat on top of fat. It's gonna be a fat sandwich. Oh, that might result in it being not only the most peppery, but also the most tasty. Talk about too much of a good thing, huh? Oh boy. The deli cut gabagool is by far the least pleasant to eat. In terms of flavor, it is fantastic. It's got that peppery note to it. It's not quite as salty as the previous ones we've had, but the chewiness kind of breaks it for me. And yes, it is chewy. You want to know what happens when you have a big giant ball of fat in your deli meats? You're gonna end up with something that you're chewing for God knows how many fortnights. The more dried out the gabagool is, the better and more tasty it is. More is not necessarily better, for fat at least. So in the end, which of these is the best gabagool? Gonna have to go with the pricey one. It's got a much more interesting flavor. When you bite into it, it actually has the best benefits of the fat, the salt, and the pepperiness. And also, man, I don't know about you, but having no nitrates and trying to like reduce my lifespan as little as possible when eating something that's clearly not good for me, kind of a priority. Because when you eat the gabagool, you don't need a small amount, but prosciutto will always be S tier.
Running in this cyber chase, unique and face to face. We'll stick together all the time. Adventures in cyberspace. The chase is on.
You've seen a made man, and now a made horse.